Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. Today, we're going to talk about investing where you play with Don. Don, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, I'm looking at your logo and looking at the name of your company, Happy Camper Capital. What the heck is that?
Yeah. Well, for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory if you think about it. We are a syndication investment company, but not what you traditionally think of with syndications like multifamily or mobile home parks. But we focus on RV campground resorts. So we're outdoor hospitality investment group.
Super cool, super cool. All right, so give us an idea of what a typical day looks like for you, and what kind of deals do you guys like?
Sure. Boy, so we're actively pursuing RV campgrounds across the country. We're not necessarily focused on one specific state or region. We have several team members that are dedicated to just finding deals. So we look, literally everywhere, and we have deals sent to us all the time as well. So, our average deal we look for is typically, we'll say about at least 100 or so existing campsites. And that could be a mixture of both RV camp sites for the RVs, plus like dry camping with the tents, or some like cabins, things like that. And we look for properties that are within about maybe a 2 or 3 hour drive of a major metropolitan city, and that gives us a built-in user base for people that like to get out and go camping and take their RVs out and just go have fun. So those are the two basic criteria of what we look for.
Okay. How in the world did you guys choose this asset class to do that? Kind of walk us through the company's origin story and how you guys decided this route.
Yeah, so it goes back a couple of years. The original founding members, Adam Lendy and Justin Hoggett, both are in the Denver, Colorado area. They're both avid outdoors people. They do a lot of hang gliding in particular. They enjoy doing that, and now of course RVing, camping. So they met, actually, I think it was on a hang gliding outing, and kind of instantly hit it off with each other, and they were both, as it turns out, active in real estate investing as well. Justin had done several multifamily properties of his own. Adam was a commercial broker, and so they instantly said, "Hey, we love outdoors. We love real estate." The RV area just kind of came about as like a natural place to go. They saw the need for it. Of course, being themselves going out camping all the time, they see the need there, and they see the potential there for people that are coming to stay these places. And so that's kind of where the idea began with them. And they alone took down their first property in Iowa. And after that, realized that in order to grow the way that they wanted to, they needed to expand the team and bring on more team members. So they hired another person, or brought another person for acquisitions. And then I came on shortly after that with the investor relations side of things. And then we added on more people after that. And so we've kind of continued to grow over the last year, really. And so yeah, so we're just people in general that we love outdoors and love the opportunities that are there in this space.
Yeah. Now you mentioned your side of the coin, that the area that you put your focus into. I didn't
Yeah.
quite catch that. I might have missed it. So what's your area of focus within the organization?
Sure. So I joined with them, particularly focusing on the investor relations.
Got it.
Getting the word out, bringing on more investors into our deals. I have actually since moved up and joined part of the executive team as well. But I still have my major focus on essentially this investor outreach, like coming on like your podcast and talking about what we're doing, getting the word out for people to know that this asset class exists, and people can find us and come to us and hopefully invest with us.
Awesome. So what is your background, right? So you're doing investor relations and moved up into executive management. You guys are doing some cool things in the world of camping. Now, I love camping. We've done a lot of RVing and,
Yeah.
and I've done a lot of dry camping growing up. But like, what is your story? How did you get tied into this world?
Well, it's so my background just in general has been around finance and investing. I have degrees from the University of Nebraska at Omaha, with majoring in investment science, portfolio management, finance, banking. So I have this investor finance background anyway, and I've been working in that industry for almost a couple of decades now. But I as myself have been investing in real estate for the last 5 years. Started with small multifamilies and got into other development projects and other commercial deals. And I myself, over the last, say, about a year ago, I was, like most people, searching for something better is out there. There's got to be some great deals, and everything I was seeing in the general syndication world for multifamily in particular, just for me, were not producing the returns that I was wanting. For myself, I was not satisfied with just an average type deal. I like to get the most bang for my buck that I can get, and not have regrets later. It's like, oh, I could have invested in this, but now my money's tied up in that. So I was always holding off for something better. And it was actually on a podcast about a year ago that I heard somebody else talking about campgrounds. It's something I myself had never considered before. And for where I live in eastern Idaho, we're like an hour and a half away from Yellowstone Park, so it's a very high camping area anyway. All my neighbors have RVs, and it's just part of the lifestyle here. So I was like, okay, that could be something there. So I started going more to these like meetups and webinars talking about campgrounds and connecting with people in that space, and just in doing that type of networking, connecting, trying to find some. Initially, I was looking for people that are looking to buy in my area in Idaho. It's like, hey, I could be your boots on the ground and go check it out. Me and my wife's a realtor. We could help with the purchase and all that. And just in doing that type of networking, it's when I met Adam Lendy, who I said is one of the founding members from Happy Camper Capital. And he and I talked and hit it off and kind of discussed our goals and what I was wanting to do and where they're going and the kinds of returns that they're getting already with these types of properties, which of course blew me away. I was like, wow, that's definitely something that gets my interest, And so if nothing else, I was like, hey, I'll probably for sure at least invest with you guys, but I'm not sure if I want to join with you guys just yet. I still wasn't sure, if this was, something that's going to really take off or not. And, but I did my personal due diligence. I went to a lot of networking events anyway with investors, and I just brought up the questions like, hey, what do you think about campgrounds? And I never got a negative response. Everybody thought it was a great idea, especially people like yourself that have been camping or been RVing. There's like, yeah, there's huge potential there. So I'm like, all right. And then I talked to my neighbors. I've discussed with my neighbors before about investing in multifamily, and they were always like not down for multifamily. They don't understand it. They're scared of it. And so I mentioned, what about investing in campgrounds? And that's now a totally different conversation, because they get excited about that. Like, yeah, this is something I would enjoy that. I would like that. Because again, they like yourself, they understand it. They're out camping all the time. And that's something they're not afraid of. So, so I was like, okay, yeah, there's definitely some potential here. So I agreed to join up with the team, and I haven't looked back since. I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah. So you approached them or started the conversation about, hey, let me just invest with you guys. You guys are getting great fun, great returns. And then you got to see the process, you got to see the team, you did some due diligence, and you're like, I actually want to join the team. And then you moved up into a position of leadership within the team. Did I get that right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. In the process, now, were you a camper growing up, or do you guys, you mentioned all your neighbors had RVs. What about yourself?
Yeah. Well, we moved here from Omaha, so I did not have an RV yet. So growing up with my family, so I actually did live in Idaho when I was young, and my family went camping quite often. And then when we moved to the Omaha area, growing up, my family didn't do a whole lot of camping, but I was actively involved with the Boy Scouts, so I did a lot of camping with the Boy Scouts.
Cool.
Summer camp and winter camp outs and that kind of stuff. So I had camping experience, even though I would say I didn't necessarily enjoy those scouting camping experiences. They weren't always necessarily fun. At least the sleeping in the tent part of it. We did fun activities, but sleeping on the, especially the summer camps, those canvas tents that are filled with spiders were never exciting. But yeah, I enjoyed the outdoors and camping experience. And later I myself became the scoutmaster and went camping with the boys as well. So I've seen it from that aspect of things, not necessarily the fun RVing camping type thing, So, but being here in Idaho, I still don't have an RV yet, but I have been to several of the RV campgrounds around here just to go and hang out with. We do a lot of, like our neighborhood and church does a lot of outings out there. So like father and son type campouts. So we go to those type of events and get to enjoy the experience anyway.
Yeah. It's a lot different from going on a scout camp trip to driving up in a Class A or something like that. You got AC, you got shade, instant hot water, right? Like there's a big difference. So
For me, that's what what I would used to consider tell my wife is this is glamping really, because my wife is not so much down for the tent camping either, but yeah, I'd happily go in an RV or something, this, have a comfortable bed to sleep on and not worry about bugs and bears, and so she's down for RVs for sure.
Yeah, it's a game changer. So in the process of what you guys are doing, you guys started going after groups. You're doing investor relations. What kind of milestones? How long have you been with the organization?
So I officially joined with them in November of 2021.
Oh wow,
So
okay, so
about 7 months or so, yeah.
pretty recent. Since then, like what have you learned, and what are some things you could teach to us about why RV parks versus multifamily versus self storage versus fix and flips? Like
Yeah.
why should I consider campers?
Yeah, well, there's lots of things to consider. It's of course all going to be based on your personal, profile for your risk tolerance and what you're looking for in returns and all that. So for me, the things that I've kind of picked up along the way, again, first of all, for me, what got my attention initially, of course, was just the returns. So if we start with we'll say, just in general, not giving you specifics, but generally speaking, we're looking at probably about double the returns you're seeing in most other syndications. So our average target on our typical campground is about a 15 to 20% cash on cash return over a 5-year average, with generally about a 2.5 to 3x multiple, over that 5-year hold. So again, about, at least from what I've seen, about double most other types of syndications. And then on top of that, and then again, for us, we consider those numbers to be relatively conservative. There's lots of different aspects that we can put into our projections that we don't include just to be conservative. So, as great as those numbers sound, I think we can do better. We try to, of course, under promise and over deliver. It's what we want to do. So, so even with that, again, those numbers sound quite insane to some people. But there's things about the campground space that is very different and unique, as opposed to like multifamily, for example. Mm-hmm. There's, I don't know how to put this really, I guess, but as far as what we do, we are purchasing value add properties, so we're not just mm-hmm. buying a turnkey and leave it as is, cash flowing. They would still do well, but we of course want value add where we can do something to improve the value, improve the income. And with that, in most cases, these are, as we refer to them, like mom and pop owned properties. So like some family owns been there for probably decades. And in most cases, the people that are operating them are doing the job of like 5 to 6 people. So they're in most cases not managed properly to get the most efficiencies, because they're only doing what they can handle. And therefore trying to keep things simple, so they have this like a flat rate every single day of the year. This is what it costs per night, no matter what. They take phone call reservations only, so we can come in there and just improve those systems, like get them online, have online reservations with dynamic pricing, and which that alone, of course, is going to just bring in more people that can find you online and make reservations online, because these days most people are not going to pick up a phone to make a phone call. So that alone is going to help you improve just the revenue at the bare minimum. Yeah. But then, of course, we want to add on additional amenities and things that will bring people to that campsite. Even people that are not just there with an RV or for camping. They might come for some glamping experience, like to get some Instagram pictures or whatever. We might have depending on the location, we might do some like weekend concerts or things like that. They'll bring people for different events that are there just to have fun and not even be there at all for camping. So there's different things we can do. But what I like about that is that there's if you think about it, compare with like multifamily, you do a value add on a multifamily, there's only so much you can really do to maximize that market rent you can get to. So even if you gold plate a toilet, you're not gonna get higher rents than what the maximum market rent's going to really allow. So with the campgrounds, on the other hand, it's kind of different. Where there's almost, let's say, unlimited upside potential as far as whatever you can add on to bring in additional revenue streams will continue to add value to that property. The thing that me personally, that I didn't think about this, I guess, initially, but over time I've made this realization myself, is that this kind of goes back to my personal, I guess, beliefs, feelings, and consciousness, I guess. For multifamily value add, in most cases, the whole point is to raise the rents, right? You want to raise the rents to increase that income on that property. And when you're raising rents, you're therefore now affecting people's personal lives, that their budgets, what they have for living expense for housing, for food, for whatever. So increasing that rent for I'd say most people is going to hurt them considerably. That's going to be a big budget cut on what they need to find a new place to live, or they need to cut back on their food, or whatever it may be. And that can be a hardship for people. And I don't really like that, for the most part. Even early on, before I even bought my first property, I visited a property. There was this one that we looked at that had a very, I'd say, ugly looking bathroom that most people would not want to even live in. But I asked the guy there, is like, if we fixed up this bathroom in the kitchen, make it nicer for you, are you willing to pay more rent? And they're like, well, we like having the cheap rent, because that's what they can afford, And so I understand that, and so with campgrounds now, people are not generally living here. They're coming out for fun. This is a disposable income. Usually people that have RVs and campers tend to have a higher income that they can afford those kind of toys anyway. And so we're not directly affecting their lifestyle and their living. And so they can, choose to come or not come, but it does not, we're not putting people out in the streets or forcing people to find a new place to live, that kind of thing. So that, for me personally, I like that aspect a lot, that, I can sleep with a clean conscience, that, I'm not, kicking out a single mother with kids trying to live,
Got it. So philosophically, this kind of investment aligns with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you say, like I preferred this versus in multifamily. Now, we have conversations on the Deal Scout about all different types of deals and why people like those kind of deals, But for you, you said with that you raise rents, which is kind of a normal thing in multifamily. There's some value adds. You could add a coin laundry. You could add self-storage on site. You could add things to it, boat storage and all that stuff. And then over here, you're saying, this is disposable income. A rent raise here doesn't really impact the people, and they're doing it for fun and love. So like for you, if you weighed them out dollars to dollar, this one fundamentally makes more sense to you. And you said it makes higher returns based on what your experience is. So that's really cool. I love to hear the motivations of deal makers of why they choose different deals. Some people like, hey, I make less over here, but I enjoy it more. Why not do something I enjoy? But if you're making more and enjoying more, why not? Right. So when you go through this process, give us some tips on acquisitions. Now I know you guys won't give away, all the secret sauce and such, but like, mom and pops reaching out to them, they're working themselves to the bone, working four to five different jobs on site, and then you guys call them up or email them or postcard them. Give me some tips on what you guys have found works well.
So I guess just some clarity. So I'm not directly in the acquisition, so I might not be the perfect person to ask on that. But generally, like you said, we're dealing with mom and pop owners for the most part, and in some cases they're not ready to sell yet. They're still hard at it. But in some cases, or most cases, to say that they've been doing it for long enough that they're burnt out, they're tired, that they're happy to get out of it. Their kids may not want to take it on or anything to keep the family, so they're ready to sell. And it's mainly for that. They're like, we're ready to retire. We want to just relax now and not keep at this. I've got one I'm working on myself here locally where I'm at that it's kind of that same type of thing. It's a popular location. The people have ran it great, but their kids aren't interested in taking it on, and so they're just they're looking to retire very soon. So some of that is just, of course, building up the relationship, which is similar with multifamily. I'd say, you build up that relationship. If they're not ready to sell now, at some point down the road, they will be, and you'll hopefully be the first one they'll call. So we can come on there and tell them, hey, we tell them what we're doing. We're in most cases, this is like their baby, right? They don't want some big institution to come and just, completely change how things are. And that's not what we're doing. Of course, we're going to come in and improve it, make it better, maybe expand on it. But for the most part, we want to keep the uniqueness of the property there as it is. And we're not here to make like a cookie cutter campground across the country. We want each place to be unique in its own way. Yeah. And so the owners will most cases, like that, they're like, okay, we can keep it more or less how you had it, but we're just going to make it better. And so we come in there, of course, tell them we're open to closing their timeline. We can be flexible on what they need. We try to get seller financing if we can. We've got a few of them right now that do have seller financing on them. They don't always go for that, but we always try.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, once we get at least a initial, we'll say LOI accepted in there, then we'll do a site visit, check it out in person. In many cases, we'll find that we're surprised that there's more than we thought there would be. Some things that they maybe just take for granted that they're, this is just here as part of the thing. They don't really think it's anything unique for us. Like, hey, there's a huge opportunity right there. Like they maybe have a huge area that they have for storing RVs and boats and things, and don't charge people for it. I'm like, hey, there's a huge opportunity there just to charge for storage. And so there's things like that just kind of come up from the site visit, which is great, which is why we do those site visits, just to see in other cases there may be something that could be a big negative thing that they didn't tell us about that would make us back out of the deal, So but once we do the site visit and we get some ideas of what we can do, what the plan is to do, then we'll go back and again review our plans for it, and of course run our numbers, make sure it's going to make sense. It's going to get the kind of returns that we're looking for our investors. If it does not meet our criteria, then of course we'll pass on it. And honestly, I'd say in most cases we pass on the majority. They might work for some other people, but for us in these kind of returns that we're trying to get to our investors, we're not just taking on every single property that comes up. We're being very picky about that and only getting the very best to provide those investment options for our investors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Talk to me about market opportunity, right? So let's just say I join your group and, whether an investor or I come in and I pick up the phone and start dialing. How many RV parks, mom and pop RV parks with over 100, 100 sites and within 2-3 hour drive of a major metropolitan area? And how many are there out there that we could go after?
There's a lot, honestly. There's a lot, at the same time, not enough. As it is now, if every existing campsite were to be used, okay, so everybody that owns a camper or RV, if they all went out in the same weekend across the country and wanted to go to every existing RV park, there would not be room to hold them all. So there is a demand for more. In fact, I just read a statistic the other day about new ones being developed this year. We actually have plans ourselves to start developing some new ones down the road here. But
cool.
But yeah, there's definitely enough out there now. Based on how many there are willing to sell right now, of course, it makes it also a bit of a difference. They're not all ready to sell at the moment, which for us also provides another opportunity. We have a sister company called Beyonder Camp that does campground management. So again, those owners that are maybe burnt out, can't quite handle it, but don't want to sell, we can offer them to at least take off that management aspect of it for them to do those daily tasks and handle the staffing and all that stuff, where they can just relax and collect their income from the property. So this gives us another avenue to pursue when they're not ready to sell just yet. And of course, then when later on they are ready to sell, we're already managing it. It makes it much easier for us just to take it over and take it. But yeah, so if you started dialing, you could just pick even if you want to stay yourself in a specific region where you're at, there's plenty around you that there would be opportunities to find stuff.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah, it's a great idea to not only focus on the acquisition side, especially if you guys are owning them, but also have a management company that can do it, right? Because then you could get services and you could get things at scale, and you have better efficiencies than what people could have on their own.
Definitely.
In the world of multifamily, we talk about doors under management, right? How do you measure? Is it like sites under management, SUM or something like that, or how do you guys do that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a bit different. Like you even though you're talking about valuation, you just say we paid this price per door. We don't really have a price per campsite or anything like that, because it's going to, of course, fluctuate and vary because there's lots of different variables involved. But yeah, we just personally we don't count the numbers, would say, of campsites or anything. We say that the properties we own and manage. So we, as of right now, we're just basing on the number of properties.
Copy. So you take a look and you're like, how do you guys do calculations for valuation? Like when you're coming up with an LOI and you're taking a look at, if someone's like, yeah, I'm interested in selling, make me an offer. You're like, okay, right? Yeah. You're like, okay, how do we come up with a number? What are some of the things that you guys think through when coming up with an offer valuation?
Sure. Yeah, well, it's definitely a bit more complex than your standard multifamily, because there's multiple factors involved. It's not just a straight line rental income or rental and laundry or something. So we'll of course first take their previous years income, P&Ls and all that stuff to kind of compare what they've done, their income and their expenses, and of course look at our own projections of what we could do with it. But there's multiple line items. So you're going to have your standard, we'll say like for just the standard RV camp sites, right? You got your long-term stayers, people that tend to stay for seasons, like they'll come for the whole summer or winter, or some even stay 6 months out of the year or so. We prefer the more transitional campers that are there transient campers that are there for like a shorter term, maybe up to like a month or so. So we'll of course try to turn that dial to be more transient and less long-term. But so we'll have line items for the long-term, line items for the transient. Then you got line items for, say, if there's like a convenience store, the sales and cost of goods sold and all that kind of stuff. Then there's other things that could be in there. So like you could have boat rentals or other types of services that are there. So there could be up to like say 10 to 20 different line items for income sources. So we'll take, of course, the main thing would be the big ones there, the rent and other things. And kind of course compare that to ones that are around the area. So kind of just like you do with anything else, we're going to do some comparables and see, okay, what's the one 10 miles down the road, what are they renting for, and what's the standard going rate in this area, and so do some compares there to see what it should be renting for, how far under market are they, to make some projections based on that. But based on just anything else, commercial real estate, it's going to be based on the income overall. So we'll try to, of course, base it on the as is income, not what it could be, to come in with a reasonable number that will work for us. Of course, we'll do our projections and everything to see, okay, what kind of returns are we going to get based on these factors. At the very minimum, like say, or worst case scenario, is this going to meet our numbers? And if so, then okay, we know we're going to be very well off in the end.
All right. So this is where I would love to hear your thoughts, and this might be more of an acquisition conversation. But when you're having a chat with the mom and pop, and you're like, "Hey, we're interested in purchasing your property," and they go, "Great, make us an offer," and you're like, "Okay, well, give us your financials." At what point is it like to break the stalemate? Do they, do you put in an initial offer with a price tag on it, or do you say to make an educated offer, we need to see that how does that work out?
Yeah, we've done both. So it kind of depends. In some cases, of course, these mom and pop places, they don't always have good financials that are available to just
Here's
hand
my
over
shoebox of
exactly.
receipts.
Yeah. So with that, then we'll kind of just again do those comps and see, okay, well, what would you think this should be earning as income based off the size, how many campsites are there, and what's the neighboring properties doing, and then we'll use that to kind of give a rough estimate. But yeah, we've had to have times where they didn't want to give us anything up front without an offer first. So like, all right, well, we'll of course put in a lowball offer. Say, well, here's maybe say you might be worth like $7 million, but since they're not give us anything, we're like, well, here's the $3 million offer. We don't know, and kind of at least get the ball moving and see if they just laugh at us or what if they're at least say, well, and then of course we of course, like anybody would, you tell them, like, well, we need to see your financials to provide a real offer, So then, once they see we're serious, they'll usually then start to get what they can together and give us what they can. We did have one that I know of that, even with a broker listed property, and even the broker wasn't either not willing or able to get us the financials. And so we were like, well, if you can't give us anything, we're just going to walk away because we need to know what it's actually doing. So that one we had to walk away from. But yeah, there's definitely more, I say, likelihood of not having good financials available than with, say, multifamily where you have a property manager handling it. But just something we got to deal with.
Yeah. Now, this might be more of a legal compliance question. I'm just curious about this, right? So multifamily, someone, unit 312 stops paying rent. You have to go through an eviction process. You have to go through this whole thing, late notices, letters and all that other stuff. What's the process like? Someone's here for 6 months or whatever. They stop paying. They got this big ass RV, like what's that look like? Or have you not experienced it yet?
Yeah. So it may vary on by state a little bit by the laws, but for most cases, yeah, there's no eviction process. It's just calling the police and escorting a trespasser off your property. So, they're trespassing if they're not paying. So there's no leases and things to worry about. That nobody's living here. So yeah, for most cases, they'd just be considered trespassing and you have them removed.
Super cool. I mean, terrible situation if they stop paying, but like, no,
Yeah,
it seems
yeah.
a lot more simple. It seems a lot easier to deal with, those kind of
Yeah,
situations.
definitely. We don't have to worry about eviction moratoriums either. Like that's still going on in some states where you can't get rid of people. It's like, well, we don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about replacing carpets and fixing appliances and all those kind of things. So definitely a lot less stressful overall. And in most cases, again, like people are not gonna. I say most cases they're not going to overstay their welcome. They have a home to go back to. So they're just here to have fun.
Yeah. So when a neighborhood will have an HOA, right? And then a park or a campsite will have their restrictions, certain sizes, certain years, certain shape. Like
Right.
when you guys are setting up your ordinances, what are some of your go-to rules that you guys think through? Um, if you're open to sharing some of them, or does it matter?
Um, I say for most cases it doesn't really matter. I mean, there are definitely different sizes to campsites. For the RV pull-ins.
Mm-hmm.
Some that are larger than others. So that alone kind of help guide, I guess, the size requirements of what can go there and whatnot. But for the most part, yeah, I don't think really have much for orders of saying you can't come here if your RV is older than 20 years or something like that. So yeah. I don't think we have any issues with that, honestly.
Okay. Cool. As you're going through this process, what kind of, as you're looking through, because all day long you guys are looking through campsites and such like that. What campsites like really stood out? Like what areas where you're like, man, I'd really like to own something in that area. I'd like to go visit myself. Like,
Yeah.
has anything popped up that interests you?
We had one that I thought was really awesome. Again, when I joined the team in November, this was the very first one that we started working on. In fact, they were already in process when I came on. And it's actually the one that got my wife excited about this too, because even though I was on board with the whole RV thing, my wife wasn't quite yet, until she saw the webinar on this property, and she's like, okay, now I get it. That's invest with these things. But this was one in Florida, and it's one we actually had to back away from. We did not go through with it. We had some issues with the seller and the financing issues with there, but so I won't give, I guess, specific details on it. But it was in Florida, and it was very cool property. It was very large. I think it was already. I want to say it already had like existing 250 or so campsites. The seller was already in process of expanding another 150 or so. Then we were going to expand on another 300. So it was going to be like a 600 plus site by the time it was done. Being it was in Florida near Orlando, I guess I can say that. But we were going to possibly add on a water park there as well. Lots of room for storage. So this was a huge opportunity to get a huge value add on this property for sure. And so it was exciting just because of the amount of income that was going to produce and the value that was going to be there if we would have gone through with it. And just, a cool place to go visit. If you're going to go to Disney World, go to this campsite and stay there and be within a short drive to Disney World and other attractions in the area. So,
Cool.
so that alone made that one pretty cool just because of the location and everything we're going to do with it. But in the end, we had issue with the seller, and he ended up relisting it for a much higher amount.
Got it. So you and I are going to do a deal together, and we're looking at an RV park. Let's just say the numbers line up. It's 100 site plus. It's close to Orlando or like Disney World or something like that. So we're like, oh man, this is kind of cool. Everything lines up numbers, but we look at something and you're like, red flag, we're out. What are some of those kind of red flags that would pull the deal even if the numbers look good?
It's a good question.
Thanks, man. As a podcast host, I love hearing that. Like, good question. I'm like, yeah, I got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not one I had planned for. So, I guess so. it would probably come down to if we discovered there's some potential issues with like I guess neighboring ordinances or laws or things that could potentially affect us. Maybe even if I get the one thing that we tried to look for ones that are on city water and sewer, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you do get well water and septic and things like that. So if obviously there'd be a problem with the well water, that'd be obviously a big deal. To have to have that liability. So we try to avoid that. And if there'd be some kind of issue with the well water or something nearby that could affect the well water, that would be a problem. Other red flags, I guess, if it's it's one of those things. Even talking about standard multifamily or other real estate, you see it on pictures, you see it online, everything looks great until you get there to a site visit, and then you say, oh, this is next to homeless camper or something. And something that could definitely affect the overall value and the people want to come there. So things like that would definitely be a problem if we get there and there's a big eyesore right next door that we can't get rid of or do something about.
Across the street from a prison or something, that
right.
People might not want a vacation straight across from that. So I get that. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
What do you think, what are some personal goals that you have as you're going, working here and building this organization, doing investor relations, having chats with, visionaries and investors, talking about that? Like, what's one of your, man, I really want to accomplish this for myself in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
So I guess you're talking about outside of Happy Camper Capital, or
it could be either or. You drive, buddy.
So so some personal goals. I mean, I of course want to see the team Happy Camper Capital as itself, become the leader in this space of the RV campsite syndications and ownership. And I think we're definitely well on our way for that. We've definitely built up a brand already that's getting noticed out there, and that's why we've been invited on multiple podcasts like yours to come and talk about it. But outside of that, and of course what we expect to do and provide great returns for our investors, and overall the goal of the team is why we do a lot of 506B opportunities, which means it's open to non-accredited. The reason we do that is because we want to help people become accredited investors over time. So if all of our deals were for accredited investors only, that only helps people that are already wealthy. We want to help people that are not wealthy yet to have that opportunity to build wealth and improve their lives overall. So that's the overall goal of the company. And myself, my own personal, I guess, alignments with that goes a little bit deeper. So I lived for 2 years in Argentina, in northern Argentina. So very poor area. My wife is from Paraguay as well. So, we've seen what, most people would consider true poverty. People live in dirt floors, no running water and things like that. So my wife and I have an overall long-term goal that at some point we want to do something to go back and help the people of those areas, whether that be, providing some kind of job opportunities, ways to just improve their lives and provide a real living wage. Partly, of course, my wife's family, number one, and then outside that, people we know and love, their fans and family, and just people in that community anyway. So you want to do a lot to just give back and help people in those areas to just have opportunities to really live. So until you've seen it firsthand, you don't get it.
Yeah, super cool, Don. During this interview, there's probably some questions I should have asked you that I completely screwed up and have not asked you. What are those?
I'd have to think what they were too, but I guess we'll probably get to the end. Is how people can.
I will. You can't use that. You can't use that one yet. I'll ask you that at the end.
I'll save that one. So outside of that, I guess. Maybe I guess for maybe just my personal stuff. I guess what ultimately led me to investing in real estate to begin with. What even led me down this path to get into real estate, which then ultimately got us to Happy Camper Capital, right? Yeah. So going back, I started investing in real estate about 5 years ago. At that point, like I said, my background was in finance and investment science. I mostly focused on stock investing and things like that, but with investing in stocks, you don't really see any immediate return. So you see these values go up or down, but it doesn't provide income really. So I was at the point where, in my personal life, we're kind of struggling with our finances, deep in debt, trying to find a solution, a way out. And luckily, somehow real estate came up as a viable option. Even though we had no money to invest with, I was like, there's got to be a way. We've got to find a creative solution to get and start investing. And so, actually, myself personally, we bought our first properties, a four-plex. I borrowed from my 401k for most of that down payment. So, so I found a creative solution to get it. Found a local lender that does a 10% down payment for properties, and I purchased it like that. And even though it was something totally scary to do, it was our very first investment, something that size, huge risk. If this would, just totally go wrong and blow up in our faces, we would be on the streets probably. So it was a huge risk, but it was one of those things we got to take this chance because it's the only thing that's going to solve our problems, get us to where we want to be. So then that was, 5 years ago. Once we got past that fear and we said, okay, let's do it. And we closed on that property. That just started building up that momentum that started the process of just growing wealth and seeing more opportunities and starting to connect with more people like yourself, other investors and people that are in the space, to learn from them, and just kind of, I'm so grateful looking back that we did that. I had no thought that 5 years later I'd be involved with these major syndications and big commercial stuff. I thought my plan was to keep buying fourplexes and but yeah, just because of that, our of course our wealth has grown and our knowledge has grown, and I can't even imagine what the next 5 years is going to look like. Honestly, I just what I've done this first 5 years, the next is just going to be insane. So I invite anybody has not yet invested in real estate, just thinking about it, to not wait. Get involved and start investing today, so you can start seeing those fruits of that. I guess work towards that to help build your wealth and change your future.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. And I'm glad you did that, man. Fear is that little hurdle of fear, making that first, I'm cashing out on my 401k, I'm putting it into something, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
And you did it. And, 5 years later, you're now on the executive, team at a capital company and buying stuff and doing some cool things. So
right.
Good work, man. Proud of you.
Yeah,
now here's the time. If someone wants to connect with you and learn how to do a deal, Don, where could they connect with you and have a chat?
Yeah, well, obviously you can go to happycampercapital.com. You'll find us there. You can talk to any of our team there, but you go to the About Us tab, you'll see my information there, and you can set up a Calendly link with me there to set up time to talk. You can also, of course, find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there to just kind of chat and see what I'm posting about and learn more. So yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anybody that's interested.
Sounds cool. Thanks, Don. Fellow deal makers, as always, reach out to our guests. Say thanks for being on the show. If they're working on a deal that you're interested in, just connect with them directly. All their contact information will be in the show notes below. So you'll be able to connect with them and maybe do a deal. That's the mission and purpose of this show. Now, if you're working on a deal and you want to talk about it here on the Deal Scout, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, and maybe get you on the show next. Till then, we'll talk to you all on the next episode. See you guys.